Welcome to Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Calhoun. A lot to get to today as the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry week continues. And we start with, will you be sad to see the rivalry go? It's not likely to continue after this year. That'll be today's tough question. Also, is Tennessee likelier to beat Georgia or Mississippi State? I know that sounded crazy at the beginning of the year, but I predicted that they would beat Georgia and lose to Mississippi State. Am I sticking with that? What do you guys think? That'll be bank on it. Why has Georgia been Heupel's biggest Achilles heel? Heupel has beaten Florida twice and Alabama twice, but he still has not been able to bring himself to beat Georgia. We're going to ask that question. That'll be 4 downs. 5 Vols to watch for against Georgia. Who will be the key Vols? That'll be hot or cold. And the 5 Vols to watch for against Georgia will be hot or cold. Why has Georgia been Heupel's biggest Achilles heel? The 5 Vols to watch for against Georgia will be 4 downs. Why Georgia has been Heupel's biggest Achilles heel? That'll be hot or cold. And we will close with AP poll voters. One has just straight up embarrassed herself with something she said. That'll be what the age, and we're going to talk about that. So smash that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. Want you to be a part of it. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We come to you live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. Ted Russell Ford, that is. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling to today's tough question. And it involves the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry. Tennessee and Georgia have been annual rivals since 1992. They started playing each other in 1992 when the SEC, annually that is, when the SEC split into 2 divisions and decided that they would put Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Kentucky in the East, and Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, and Arkansas in the West. Since then, there have been some amazing games in this series. Tennessee dominated early, won every single game in the 90s. Georgia has dominated as of late. It's almost perfect symmetry. But in the middle, there were some crucial games that really decided outcomes of the season. For those who don't remember, the 2003 matchup decided who won the SEC East, which was a big deal. The 2004 matchup decided who won the SEC East, which was a big deal. The 2007 matchup decided who won the SEC East, which was a big deal. And the 2022 matchup decided who won the SEC East. And the 2022 matchup may have decided who won the SEC championship that year too. The other 3, the one who won the East didn't actually go win the SEC title. But not just those games, by the way. There were a couple of others, just so you know. The 1997 matchup, everybody thinks about Florida from that year. If Tennessee loses to Georgia that year, Georgia wins the East. So that one did decide the SEC title for all intents and purposes. So 97, let's just think about this for a minute and some games that have decided the SEC East between Tennessee and Georgia. And actually 98, because Georgia finished 6-2 in 98. If Georgia beats Tennessee in 98, then Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia are all 7-1. They all beat each other, so it decided to share. So 97 and 98 decided who won the SEC East. 2003 decided who won the SEC, who actually represented the team in the SEC East in the SEC title game. 2004 decided who won the SEC East. 2007 decided who won the SEC East. And 2022 decided who won the SEC East. A lot of times this game has had major implications. And for what it's worth, there was no East last year, but the 2024 game did decide who would play Texas in the SEC title, and maybe have decided the SEC title itself since Georgia beat Tennessee. When you break all of that down, 97, 98, 2003, 2004, 2007, 2022, 2024, 7 times it deciding it, the winner winning it, or going to the SEC title game. Guys, this game throughout the series history has had the same type of impact the Florida game has. I mean, that's crazy to say, but it is. Let's talk about the times the Tennessee-Florida game decided the SEC East. Okay, because we can count those too, because we're talking 1993 it decided the SEC East. 1990, everybody thinks during that 5-game winning streak during the 90s. We'll say 1994 it did too. So 93, 94, 95, 96, the winner won the East. Florida every time. And it decided it. Fair enough. 99 and 2000, 98, 99 and 2000, it decided it. Okay, I'm seeing a point here. In 2001, it decided it. So 8 times it decided the SEC East winner. But the rivalry really started to fizzle off before then. And since 2000, Georgia has had a bigger impact on the series, believe it or not, than Florida did. Oh, and 2002 decided who would have been a 3-way tie in the SEC East had Tennessee beat Georgia. All this is to say that this rivalry has carried a lot of magnitude over the years. A ton. There are some legendary moments between Tennessee and Georgia since this rivalry began. The 92 win over Georgia propelled Philip Fulmer to a national profile and is what got him the head coaching job at Tennessee eventually, okay? The 95 one was Peyton Manning's coming out party, a game-winning drive to beat Georgia that year. The 98 one, Lee Corso and College Game Day were in Athens. Tennessee was 4-0, and they picked Georgia to win with a freshman quarterback. Tennessee won 22-3. That was the turning point of the season for Team Martin to take over. The 99 one, Georgia stomps on the tee. Tennessee wins. We obviously know the hobnail boot game of 2001. We know the Sean Jones fumble return of 2003, the shocking upset by Tennessee over Georgia in 2004, hanging 50 in Athens in 2006, the shocking 35-14 blowout in 2007 over a Georgia team to finish the year ranked number 2. This series has had a lot of fun, exciting, incredible moments. So will you be sad to see the rivalry go? That is today's tough question, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. And I say yes. I think this rivalry carries as much magnitude as weight as Florida. If you look past the 90s and just start in 2000, this series has had more impact than the Tennessee-Florida series. I mean, Florida's just straight up owned Tennessee since 2004, but this series has had significant impact since then. And I think when you take that into account, I think that yes, this rivalry will be missed. So that is the poll question. Vote on it now. Will you be sad to go yes or no when I come back after a quick message from Banks & Jones? Again, today's tough question represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. A quick message from them, and we're going to talk about how they could maybe preserve this rivalry.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
All right, the poll question. Will you be sad to see the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry go? 50% say yes. 50% say no. Now, I'm adding a new poll question. Should Tennessee-Georgia rivalry be preserved when the SEC goes to 3 protected annual rivals each year? In 3 protected games, annual games. Okay. There we go. Okay. Should the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry be preserved when the SEC goes to 3 protected annual games? Yes. They're a top 3 Vols rival. Yes. SEC should increase protected games. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yes. SEC should increase protected games. All right, there we go. How about no? You have to cut 1, or no, it's not a big rivalry. All right, so here we go. This is going to be the question, and you guys can answer it this way. Should Tennessee-Georgia rivalry be preserved when the SEC goes to 3 protected annual games? Yes, they're a top 3 Vols rival. Yes, increased number of protected games. No, you have to cut 1. No, it's not a big rivalry. You guys go ahead and vote on that right now. It's the poll question. So again, should the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry be preserved when the SEC goes to 3 protected annual games? Yes, they're a top 3 Vols rival. Yes, increase the number of protected games. No, you have to cut 1. No, it's not a big rivalry. My vote is increase the number of protected games. I'm shocked that Tennessee-Georgia wasn't a big rivalry before 1992. They're 3 hours apart, Tennessee to Athens. Now, you could say, yes, Tennessee-Georgia Tech was the original rival, and Georgia Tech was an SEC school at one point. But then they moved to the ACC. Georgia made sense as a natural rival. They are so close to each other. I think this should be one of the protected games. Here's my hot take. I don't care to see the SEC, every team play every team twice in a 4-year period. I don't. I care to see more rivalries preserved. So I'd rather preserve 5 Tennessee rivalries. Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. I'll go a step further. I'd rather see 7. Add Ole Miss and Auburn. I don't care. I'd rather see them played annually. And then Tennessee can rotate the other, however many teams that is. That's 7 annual rivalries. They can rotate the other 8 over the 4-year period to get to 9 conference games a year. That is really a hot take by me, but I'm much bigger on protecting the rivalries and the tradition of the rivalries than I am making sure Tennessee gets to play Texas A&M at home and on the road over every 4-year period. I don't really care about that. I care about seeing them play Georgia every year. I care about seeing them play Florida every year. So again, Georgia, Florida, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Alabama, they should protect. They should also protect Auburn and Ole Miss. Bring those back. I'm dead serious on that. I know you guys think I'm crazy, but I'm dead serious. Protect all 7. Every one of those was an SEC rivalry for Tennessee at some point. Then the other 8 SEC teams, Tennessee can play all of them over a 4-year span. They just won't play all of them twice. Who cares? Who cares? I don't really care if Tennessee is playing Texas A&M twice every year. I don't care if they're playing Oklahoma twice every year. I don't care if they're playing Missouri twice every year. And I don't care if they're playing Arkansas twice every 4 years. Okay, I just got to be honest. I think that everybody's missing the boat on this, and the SEC is severely missing the boat. And by the way, not just for Tennessee. Let's go out west for a minute. Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, and Texas A&M should all be playing each other every year. There is history between all of those teams. They should all be playing each other every single year. Protect 5 to 7 rivalries a year. Georgia should be playing. Georgia's 3 protected ones will be Auburn, South Carolina, and Florida. Those are all 3 old school Georgia rivalries, but they should also be playing Tennessee every year. There's a lot of history with that one. Okay. So you should at least be giving Georgia 4 rivalry games every year because of the history. This is where I'm landing. There is a lot of history between so many different games in this conference. I don't really care to see just play everybody all the time and throw the rivalries out. No, protect the rivalries. And I think it's much more important to protect the rivalries than it is to try to make sure every SEC team plays every other SEC team at least twice over a 4-year period. So the poll question, should the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry be preserved when the SEC goes to 3 protected annual games? 29% say yes, they're a top 3 Vols rival. 29% say no, you have to cut one. 29% say no, it's a big rivalry. It's not a big rivalry. But 12% say yes, increase the number of protected games. I'm with the 12%. Increase the number of protected games. I'm very big on that. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. It is time for Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Bank on It. I'm going to ask the question first, and then we'll get to it. And this might be a hot take, but I'm going to do it. Is Tennessee more likely to beat Georgia or Mississippi State? Now, all of a sudden, Mississippi State looks like a very dangerous team after what they did to Arizona State over the weekend. It's highly possible Arizona State is overrated. They struggled to beat Northern Arizona the first game of the year. They lost Cam Scatterbo. They may not be the same team, but we forget that they did return everybody except for Scatterbo. And I'm one of those that thinks running backs can genuinely be overrated. In 2 weeks, Tennessee has to visit Mississippi State. But this week, they host Georgia. Now, Georgia's the better team. Georgia's the better team. There's no denying Georgia is significantly the better team than Mississippi State. However, Josh Heupel has been very successful at home. Significantly so. As a matter of fact, since November, I'm going to give you a stat soon, but the only team that's been giving him trouble at home over the last 2.5 years has been Georgia. Josh Heupel is very good at home. Tennessee is very good at home. They are significant underachievers on the road. It's a big issue with them. They underachieve on the road at a high clip. They fail to cover a lot of games on the road. I believe last year on the road, they covered 2 games, and then they failed to cover the final 4 on the road. So they started, well, they covered their first game. They covered at Oklahoma on September the 21st. But then they failed to cover at Arkansas. They failed to cover at Georgia. They failed to cover at Vanderbilt, and they failed to cover at Ohio State. So Tennessee on the road is a real issue. It's very obvious. Mississippi State is on the road. Not only is Mississippi State on the road, they will be riding high when Tennessee faces Mississippi State. Mississippi State just beat Arizona State. This week, they host Alcorn State. They're going to get to 3-0. Then they host Northern Illinois, a team, by the way, that's not bad, a very dangerous team that played Maryland close, but the week before, they only beat Holy Cross 19-17, and they'll be coming off a bye. So Northern Illinois could be a little dangerous, but I still happen to believe Mississippi State will win that game. And they will be 4-0 with Tennessee coming to town in what is all likelihood a night game on September the 27th. Those games scream Josh Heupel failing to cover and the fans getting into it and Tennessee struggling. So I'm setting up the poll question now. Tennessee is more likely to beat Georgia or Mississippi State? Here's my hot take. Ready? Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Member FDIC, life made better. Tennessee is more likely to beat Georgia than they are Mississippi State.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, the poll question up. You guys go ahead and vote on this. Tennessee is more likely to beat Georgia and Mississippi State. 75% say Mississippi State, 25% say Georgia. I'm with the 25%. I want to address a few things. Blind Squirrel Sports says it's early, but Georgia's offensive line looks like a tremendous liability. So I don't like to say this, but Georgia might be a more likely victory for Tennessee. Blind Squirrel Sports is a Georgia fan. Yeah, that's a big reason Blind Squirrel Sports is because Georgia does look like they're having issues on the offensive line, but it's also because the game is just at Tennessee. Dear, Steve Sullivan, though, is asking, I don't get your MSU prediction, Caleb. They don't match up against Tennessee with talent. They don't, Steve. You're right. They don't match up with Tennessee against talent. But Tennessee doesn't fully match up with Georgia on talent. But when you factor in momentum, morale, mindset, chemistry, and where the game is being played, all of those things come into play. Steve, Arkansas didn't match up with Tennessee talent-wise last year, and Tennessee lost to them. South Carolina didn't match up with Tennessee talent-wise in 2022, and Tennessee beat them 63. And South Carolina beat them 63-35 in a blowout, or 38, excuse me. Upset, now you can say they cheated, fair enough, but upset losses happen all the time. Carried out by teams that don't match up talent-wise. I think there's what you have to remember, Mississippi State is getting this game at home. They will be 4-0. Do you realize how raucous their fans will be when Tennessee's coming to town? Do you realize how raucous their fans will be when Tennessee is coming to town? They will be going crazy. They're going to pack that stadium. They're going to have the cowbells all in there. And Josh Heupel's offense, one of the reasons it struggles on the road is there's a lot of communication. They have to run tempo and they have to run no huddle. So there's a lot of communication required as they're running no huddle. The fans getting involved can stall that communication severely. Okay. I think that the fans getting involved can really stall that communication and can really give Tennessee some trouble. I also think Tennessee might think it's playing with a little bit of house money after beating Georgia and relaxing just a little bit. They did that last year with Arkansas. They lost at Oklahoma, or they beat Oklahoma on the road. They had a bye coming off a bye. They thought they were playing with some house money, and they choked at Arkansas, which should not have happened. And Orange Blood hits the nail on the head, and this is the biggest reason. Orange Blood. We've lost an away game every year with Heupel when we had better talent, so Caleb is basing his opinion on history. Exactly. Every single year under Josh Heupel, Tennessee has lost an away game to a significantly inferior opponent. Okay? Every single year it's happened. 2021, Tennessee lost at Florida. And whatever else you want to say, Florida is actually was a significantly inferior opponent in 2021. They just were. So that was one. 2022, they lost at South Carolina, significantly inferior. 2023, Florida and Missouri, both were inferior opponents. And 2024, Arkansas. Josh Heupel lays an egg every single time he's on the road at least once a year. Okay, that is a big issue, all right? And so when you take that into account, yes, I firmly believe that Tennessee is going to have some trouble. Now, Steve, you bring up a good point. I mean, I like the confidence of you saying a 65 touchdown play will silence the MSU crowd. See, I disagree with you on that. Crowds don't get taken out, and the SEC crowds don't get taken out of the game that quickly, particularly if you're riding away from momentum. And Mississippi State's not going to quit after one 65-yard touchdown pass. Remember last year, Tennessee was down 3-0 to Arkansas at halftime. They jump out to a 14-3 lead. It seems pretty evident at that point that Tennessee has complete control of the game. The crowd's taken out of it, but all Arkansas needed was a couple of plays to get back in it, and they got back in it, and they won because Tennessee couldn't do anything else. This is a bigger issue long term. And so with that, I genuinely think that Mississippi State is more likely to beat Tennessee than Georgia is. Now, David Speaks, you say the talent gap is bigger with Mississippi State than Georgia is with Tennessee. Georgia has top 3 classes. Tennessee has top 12 classes. Mississippi State has top 35 classes the past 4 years. Yes, David Speaks, you are right about that. But that doesn't mean that, again, that could also make the case that Tennessee is closer to beating Georgia because the talent gap is not that great with Georgia. I'm not saying they will lose to Mississippi State. What I'm saying is they're more likely to lose to Mississippi State than lose to Georgia. Now, you guys can debate me on that, but I genuinely think it's much likelier Tennessee beats Georgia than Mississippi State. Okay, playing Georgia at home makes for a big difference. Playing Mississippi State on the road makes for a big difference. So with that in mind, yes, I think Tennessee this is more about, I mean, guys, you could say I'm being negative on Tennessee with Mississippi State. I'm also being positive on them with Georgia. I think they're more likely to beat Georgia. I think Georgia at home is easier than Mississippi State on the road. That's all I'm saying with this. Georgia at home is easier than Mississippi State on the road. And I honestly don't think it's crazy to suggest. We're talking about a Tennessee team in 2022 that beat Alabama at home and lost to South Carolina on the road. These things happen, okay? And if it's a night game, I would certainly move the line, because don't forget this, and this is a big one too. Tennessee not only failed to cover the spread last year on road games after Oklahoma. Here's the one that's really missed. Tennessee in night games last year against the spread, they started 3-0. Then they lost every night game against the spread the rest of the way. Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Georgia, and Ohio State. Tennessee is very, very good in afternoon games. They covered the spread in every noon game last year. Every single one. Every single noon and 3:30 game, any game that wasn't a kickoff at night, Tennessee covered. But at night, Tennessee failed to cover. So on the road and at night is a really bad combination for Josh Heupel. And that's another reason they have an advantage over Georgia this week. It's not just at the games at home. It's at the games at 3:30. Here's a big point about this. And I think the Mississippi State game will be at night. Tennessee playing Georgia at 3:30 is a huge advantage because this team practices in the morning. They are much better in the afternoon than they are at night. That's another big reason I'm saying that Tennessee is likelier to beat Georgia than Mississippi State, even if only 25% of you guys are seeing Georgia. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com, HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to discuss why Georgia has been Heupel's biggest Achilles heel. That's going to be hot or cold. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good,
You're gonna need a new one ASAP.
you are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notification. Tell a friend. Someone, Adam with the joke, who does Caleb listen to in the headphones? Is that connected to Quincy's monitor? That's a good question, Adam. It actually started with when I usually have guests on the show. I go back and forth with the headphones monitor because when I'm the other person I'm talking to, I don't want the audio to come in and cause an echo. I still have other notable things, newsworthy things going on my laptop at the time, which is why I keep the headphones on while I'm doing this. But that's actually a fair question. But I will say this: I'm thinking, can you do moneyline games ahead of the time? Can I do a moneyline game now for Mississippi State where I can project a? Can I go ahead and bet on Tennessee against Mississippi State or Tennessee against Georgia and then bet on Mississippi State against Tennessee and parlay that? Man, that would be pretty hilarious. I bet you guys I could make some bank doing that. All right. Well, we'll see. That's a different story for another day. Now, it is time for this day in Tennessee football history. And it actually deals with the Georgia game. On this day, 31 years ago, Tennessee, with Todd Helton starting at quarterback after Jerry Colquitt was injured in the opener and they lost to UCLA by 2 on the road, Tennessee was back on the road again to face Georgia and beat them 41-23 as James Littleman Stewart just straight up torched the Dogs that day. I mean, straight up torched them. Made sense. Todd Helton was a sophomore. Peyton Manning was a freshman. Brandon Stewart was a freshman. The senior quarterback, Jerry Colquitt, was hurt. David Cutcliffe just ran the ball the whole game. And Stewart rushed for 211 yards and 4 touchdowns, leading to a big Tennessee win at Georgia. Tennessee then lost 2 straight after that to fall to 1-3, and then Peyton Manning became the starter, and they finished the year 8-4. For those who don't know, that's one of the most brutal starts to a season you will ever see that Tennessee had that year. I just want to point this out. They started the year facing number 14 UCLA on the road. Then they visited number 23 Georgia. Then they hosted number 1 Florida. Then they visited Mississippi State. They had 3 road games. 3 of their first 4 games were on the road. Their first 3 games were against top 25 opponents. 4 of their first 5 games were against top 25 opponents. And 4 of their first 5 games were against top 25 opponents, and 5 of their first 7 games were against top 25 opponents as they were bringing in new quarterbacks, lost 2 for the season. Just getting to 3-4 was pretty impressive, and then they finally were able to close out the easy schedule on the back end as Peyton Manning settled in as Tennessee starting quarterback. Philip Fulmer did. That's one of the best coaching jobs you could ever ask for a coach, given what Tennessee was dealing with that year. All right. It is time to ask this question. And it's one that I think has bugged me for a little while, but I think I might have the answer, but we'll see. Georgia has uniquely been Josh Heupel's biggest Achilles heel. The Dawgs are on an 8-game winning streak against Tennessee, and they are the one SEC team that Tennessee faces on an annual basis, that Tennessee's faced on an annual basis under Josh Heupel, that Josh Heupel hasn't beaten. Moreover, since November of 2021, and our own Jimmy Hyams has a column on this right now on Off Talk Sports, believe it or not. Check it out. Tennessee's track record at home has been terrific under Heupel. They went undefeated at home last year. They went undefeated at home in 2022. Over the last 3 seasons, their only home loss is Georgia 2023. Since November of 2021, they only have 2 home losses, both to Georgia. Why has Georgia been Josh Heupel's biggest Achilles heel beyond even Alabama and Florida? That's Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com, cityheatandair.com. Why has Georgia been Josh Heupel's biggest Achilles heel beyond Alabama and Florida and any other elite team you want to plug in there? I was beating Alabama twice. One of those times was Nick Saban, and he still hasn't been able to beat Georgia. I have some theories. This is still just Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air. We're going to get the poll question up because there's 4 potential answers here. I got some possibilities, and I'm going to say whether or not I'm hot or cold on this being the main reason. Number 1, Georgia's just been better. I'm hot on that partially. Over Josh Heupel's first 4 years at Tennessee, Georgia's had the better team all 4 years. I mean, they have. They won the national title in 2021 and 2022. They won the SEC title in 2024. They played for the SEC title in 2023. They have just been better. So I'm actually pretty hot on that. The problem is Alabama was better than Tennessee if you look at the just overall talent across the board in 2022, and Tennessee beat them pretty significantly too. They didn't beat them significantly, excuse me. Well, no, they did. It was Bryce Young keeping Alabama in that game. Didn't stop Tennessee from beating Alabama that year. Also, Clemson put more players in the NFL than Tennessee over recent years, and Tennessee blew them out in the Orange Bowl that year. So it is shocking that Tennessee could do that to Alabama, but they couldn't do it to Georgia, that they could score 52 against Alabama and only 13 against Georgia that year. That's been a big question. That's the first one, is that Georgia's just been better. I mean, that's true, and I'm hot on that, but I'm actually cold overall on that being one of the reasons. I'm actually cold on that being one of the reasons. I just don't think it makes the most sense. Actually, but I will say I'm hot. I mean, that's partially the reason. That's half the reason. I'm gonna get there's 4 potential possibilities. That's one of the 2. So I'm hot on that as being one of the reasons. Georgia's just been better. They've won 8 straight. Tennessee won 9 straight, by the way, for those who don't know, between 89 and 99. So they still haven't called Tennessee straight. Another potential reason. There's a lot of belief that Kirby Smart's scheme neutralizes Heupel's offense. This was what stood out in 2022. Josh Heupel uses wide splits. And he runs the wide splits. And his idea with the wide splits is this. You have to commit either blitz or commit to guarding the receivers one-on-one. But you cannot disguise your coverage because the guy you're going to send on a blitz, the quarterback's going to see that before the ball is snapped. And then he's going to know where to go. Kirby Smart just didn't disguise many coverages. He trusted his corners one-on-one with Tennessee's receivers on the outside. And it's because Georgia's cornerbacks are just that good. I think that is true, but I'm cold on that as a reason that's been Heupel's biggest Achilles heel. Because let's just go back to 2022 again. You're going to tell me Alabama didn't have athletic corners? You're going to tell me Nick Saban couldn't have schemed for something like that? I mean, Nick Saban invented pattern matching, breaking on zone read. I mean, breaking from a zone to a man when a receiver cuts. And I refuse to believe that Kirby Smart's the only one to figure this out. So I'm actually cold on that reason, even though it stands out. Another big one. Tennessee was injured when it had its best chance to beat Georgia. And I'm talking about 2022. Cedric Tillman was coming back, but he was banged up, and he wasn't 100% when Tennessee faced Georgia in 2022. Hendon Hooker was trying to get him the ball too much, and that actually helped the point of Heupel's scheme being neutralized by Kirby Smart because Tillman wasn't fast enough. I'm cold on that too because I think that had that been the case, Heupel would have pulled Tillman and kept Brew McCoy out there. And Brew McCoy was the reason, but this was before his leg injury. That would have been the reason. He was the biggest reason that Brew McCoy would have been the biggest reason that Tennessee beat Alabama that year because he dictated coverage. He could have done it against Georgia too. So I'm cold on that. Another one, rain. That's an interesting one is rain. But that's because in 2022, Tennessee played Georgia in the rain, and the rain slowed down the offense. But again, rain slows down defense a lot of times more than offense. It's overrated that rain slows down your offensive production in a passing attack. It actually slows down the defense even more. So I'm cold on that as well. For those who want to question that, don't forget 1995 when Tennessee played Florida in the Swamp. Monsoon came down in the second half, and Spurrier's offense went off scoring 41 points because they were so much faster than Tennessee's defense in that rain. But there's one key reason Georgia's been Tennessee's biggest Achilles heel, and it doesn't apply to this year, and it's another reason Tennessee fans should be excited. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Here's the biggest reason that Georgia was Josh Heupel's Achilles heel. The times they've been good enough to beat Georgia, the times they have had enough talent to beat them, even if they weren't better than them, they just happen to be playing them on the road. I mean, and I'm hot on that. What do I mean by that? Tennessee's best season under Heupel so far, their best team was 2022. You can ask why they beat Alabama and lose to Georgia that year? Because they played Alabama at home and lost to Georgia on the road. They're very good under Heupel. I told you guys in the last segment that they struggle a lot on the road, and that's a big problem. So that's the biggest reason, honestly. And then the second best team they've had under Heupel was last year with Nico Iamaleava. So, and last year with Nico Iamaleava, again, They played, even though you can question him, but they played Georgia on the road. They got to play Alabama at home. Guys, it's really that simple. I mean, there's really no other way around it. The years they've been good enough to compete with Georgia, they played them on the road. They just happened to play them on the road. This year, they look good enough to compete with Georgia, and they're getting them at home. There's a reason Vegas is higher on Tennessee this year than it has ever been. And so I think there's a lot to be excited about with this team because of that. So again, playing Georgia on the road is the biggest reason that Tennessee hasn't beaten them yet. Because guess what? The only years they've been good enough to beat Georgia on the road, the only years they've been good enough to beat Georgia, had enough talent to upset them, they were facing them there. When's the last time Georgia lost a game at home? They went undefeated in the regular season in 2021, 2022, and 2023. They lost 2 games last year. Both were on the road in the regular season. You guys can correct me. I don't believe Ole Miss was at home, right? I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Yeah, no, they lost to Ole Miss on the road. Okay. So 2021, 2022, 2023, they didn't lose at home. 2020, they didn't lose at home. Their last home loss, guys, shockingly, 2019 to South Carolina. Will Muschamp, when they lost 20-17 in double overtime. That South Carolina team was 4-8. That's the last time they lost at home. That's pretty wild when you really think about it. So, yeah, I think that's the real story, is that it's just the fact that Georgia doesn't lose at home, and when Tennessee has been good enough to beat Georgia, they were playing them on the road. I think that's why Georgia's been Heupel's Achilles heel. I get that Georgia's the only team to beat Heupel since in Knoxville since then. That's the stat you could bring up since November of 2021. But, guys, let's be honest. If Tennessee played Alabama at home in 2021, they'd have lost. If they played Alabama at home in 2023, they'd have lost, okay? Because that they weren't good enough those 2 years. Their better teams were 2022 and 2024. And I think when you take that into account, that's really why it's been the way it's been. I don't really think there's anything like that's shocking to it, honestly. I just think that, yeah, Tennessee is overall not been able to get Georgia at home when they've been good enough to beat Georgia at that time. So yeah, that's a very good sign for Tennessee going into this weekend. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. Portions of the program brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. hdknoxville.com. I actually forgot to let you guys know that portions of that this day in Tennessee sports history was brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Facebook.com/sports treasures TM. Facebook.com/sports treasures TN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
All right, portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. In South Knoxville and Sevierville, live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat. When we come back, the key Vols to watch for against Georgia. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem. Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink. If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk.
Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
We're back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notification. It is time for the stat of the day, and it is brought to you by Joe Newberg Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Newberg Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. JoeNewbergCollision.com. JoeNewbergCollision.com. And the stat of the day is this, and it's probably one you may not like, but we're going to do it anyway. Under Josh Heupel against the spread, when Tennessee is underdogs at home, they are 2-4. They are 2-4 when underdogs at home to this point. Their only two wins are 2022 Alabama and 2024 Alabama. But in 2021, they were underdogs to Pittsburgh, Ole Miss, and Georgia, lost all three. And in 2023, they were underdogs to Georgia and lost that one. That is the stat of the day. It is time for Four Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. And it is the 5 key Vols to watch for when Tennessee faces the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday. We get rolling. It's the 5 Vols to watch for against the Dawgs. Let's get going. We're going to play Four Downs in this way. We're going to separate out where players will be key, okay? Because there's 3 individual players, and then our fourth down involves 2 players on opposite sides of the ball, but that represent what will decide this game. So again, 4 downs, the 5 key Vols to watch for against the Georgia Bulldogs. First, without Dave here, I'm going to tee up the soundboard. And that soundboard, usually that he has that I don't have, involves Cooper Mays teeing off 4 downs. And so I'm going to do my Cooper Mays imitation. I'm sorry, here it comes. Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. Thank you, Coop. All righty. Cooper Mays asking you guys to hit like and subscribe. Me channeling Dave's magical soundboard. All right. 5 key Vols to watch for against Georgia. Coop here. First down. Number 5, Arian Carter. Arian Carter is the leader of the defense. He got beat in coverage a couple of times against ETSU on Saturday on a scripted drive by Will Healy. That can't happen against Georgia, obviously. Arian Carter overall is elite. He could be an All-American linebacker. He's an incredible player. The guy's elite at stopping the run. He will be the anchor for the defense. Tennessee wants to be able to force Gunnar Stockton to make as many mistakes as possible. Arian Carter will be crucial to that happening, okay? It is important for Arian Carter to make sure that happens. So Arian Carter will absolutely be key to all of this. If Arian Carter doesn't show up and ball out and look like a superstar, Tennessee is going to have trouble, okay? So that's the biggest deal, is that Arian Carter has to be Arian Carter. He's got to do all the stuff he needs to do. Arian Carter, again, is the anchor of the defense. Tennessee is honoring one of the most legendary defensive leaders in school history on Saturday, and John Henderson, who was an elite leader for the 2000 and 2001 Tennessee football teams. Arian Carter has to channel a leader like that if he has a chance to be in that pantheon, guys. He's very, very, very talented. When you combine his talent and his leadership and the fact that he's an in-state guy who clearly loves Tennessee, Arian Carter has a chance to go in a pantheon of elite Tennessee football players with John Henderson and Tal. That's who he should channel. Also, who he could channel as a linebacker when the last time Tennessee had a big, gigantic September game like this that they won that was so memorable was 1998 Florida. We all know what happened there when Tennessee beat Florida 20-17. That was another linebacker, Al Wilson, who forced 3 fumbles and was the player of the week. Just absolutely balled out. The greatest defensive performance in the history of Tennessee football that day, 1998 Florida. That's what Arian Carter needs to channel when they face Georgia. Arian Carter will be crucial. Cooper Mays here. Suck it down. Thank you, Coop. Okay. Everybody's going to talk about Joey Aguilar. And everybody's going to talk about the running game. And everybody's going to talk about the receiving core. But the most important player on this team for Tennessee in this game is Mike Matthews. It is true, despite what I said last segment about Kirby Smart's scheme, I think being a little overrated. It is true that one of the biggest problems for Tennessee against Georgia is they have not had the wideouts to be able to get separation from Georgia's one-on-one corners and corners one-on-one. And that allows Kirby Smart to play one-on-one on the outside. He doesn't have to disguise his coverage because he knows that his corners, he has done in the past, that they were good enough to stick with Tennessee's receivers down the field. Mike Matthews could be the biggest difference of that of all time. It's not about the slot receivers. Jalen Hyatt was fast enough to beat guys. Squirrel White was, and even Braylon Staley is this year. The key to Heupel's offense, though, is your wideouts. One of your wideouts has to be fast enough to get separation in one-on-one coverage. And Mike Matthews is the first true wideout Tennessee has had since Heupel has been at Tennessee to be able to do that. He has got to be able to get separation. And Joey Aguilar can then throw it up to him to make plays just like he did on that jump ball last week. If Mike Matthews can get separation, it changes the entire complexion of the game. Now, the new wrinkles, because Georgia played 2 safeties over the top when they would try to beat when they beat Tennessee, they would play a bit of a cover 2 man. There will be spots over the middle, but if Mike Matthews is beating the corners on the outside, Kirby Smart will have to completely change his scheme. That will affect how everything else goes for the offense. So Mike Matthews is absolutely crucial for Tennessee. There's a chance that if Kirby Smart is testing him, Mike Matthews ends up with 150 yards receiving. I'm dead serious. Mike Matthews is huge for Tennessee. He will be gigantic in this game. I'm sitting here right now saying, throw the ball up, throw it up, hope he comes down with it. And I think Mike Matthews he's got barn burner speed that Cedric Tillman nor Brew McCoy had even before Brew McCoy got hurt. So that is why Mike Matthews is the guy they need to target as much as possible. Tennessee Center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down. Oh, well, thank you, Coop. 3rd down is this. Colton Hood. Now, by association, Ty Redmond and Jalen McMurray are on here, but obviously Colton Hood's going to be tested. Jamal McCoy and Ricky Gibson III being out means Colton Hood has got to look like the potential Jamal McCoy replacement that he has looked since transferring from Colorado at this through 2 games this year. Colton Hood has got to be able to be a potential lockdown corner that he's looking like he could be. Gunnar Stockton has shown many issues throwing the ball for Georgia this year. That's a good sign for Tennessee. He's struggled with them since he stepped in. Not since he stepped in during the SEC title game, but since the college football playoff last year. Tennessee had hope with Ricky Gibson, or at least Jamal McCoy being fully healthy. They hope to have Jamal McCoy back and Ricky Gibson not get hurt against Syracuse to have that advantage over Gunnar Stockton's issues. That's not there. They're going to other backup cornerbacks. But Colton Hood has shown a lot of promise. This is his chance. If he balls out on Saturday and shuts down the passing attack that Gunnar Stockton has had trouble with, it will be one of the biggest portal moves Josh Heupel ever made in the offseason. A spring portal edition. It will be huge. Colton Hood will be crucial. 4 downs, again, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down. Fourth down is going to involve two players, and I'm going to set them apart for different reasons, but it's in the trenches. Nobody would deny that where Georgia has had Tennessee's number over the past 4 years is in the trenches. That's where the difference comes in the end on talent in SEC ball. The team that is really the dominant one is the one that is winning the line of scrimmage on every play, and that's where Georgia wins. So, with that said, number 2 on my list, Jesse Perry, the shockingly emergent offensive lineman for Tennessee beyond any of the other ones. Jesse Perry stepping in at right tackle right now because David Sanders Jr. has been hurt, was the highest graded PFF offensive lineman last week. Now, it was against ETSU, but still, we heard all the talk about Jesse Perry in the offseason. I wrote him off. I was wrong. This dude looks elite. If Sanders is back, they'll move him inside. He'll still be key. And this is still going to be crucial for Tennessee's running game and their passing attack. Jesse Perry's utility abilities as an offensive lineman, believe it or not, make him a crucial player in this game. Maybe one of the most important players for Tennessee. I can't believe I'm saying that because, again, I had him written off. So Jesse Perry is going to be critical for the Vols in this game. If Jesse Perry... Now, don't get me wrong. Lance Hurd's got to do his job in pass protection at left tackle. At left guard, yeah, if Jesse Perry's not at left guard, if he's still at right tackle in place of David Sanders Jr., then Wendell Moe Jr. and Shamrod Umarad, both at left and right guard, have to do their jobs, and Sam Pendleton has to do his job in the middle. But if Perry does move back inside and Umarov goes to the bench and David Sanders comes at right tackle, then David Sanders has to be elite in his first start. I don't know if that'll happen. But either way, Jesse Perry is an anchor of this line right now. He's been a breakout player. He's going to be huge. So Jesse Perry is on this list. And number 1, the most important player on this game, Bryson Eason. That's right, Bryson Eason. Let me explain why. Georgia, right now, while we're all talking about Jamal McCoy and Ricky Gibson III being out, I wrote that Tennessee still has the injury edge over Georgia because of Georgia's injuries on the offensive line. Juan Gaston and Ernest Greed both missed the Austin Peay game due to injury. Kirby Smart has not fully updated their status. They're both offensive linemen. Georgia is obviously thin already on the offensive line because Ernest Green is a true freshman, okay? Meaning that, I'm sorry, not Juan Gaston. Juan Gaston is a true freshman. Juan Gaston is a true freshman. You're going to a true freshman and you've got what Kirby Smart's been ruling, then you have issues on the offensive line. And if that guy's still hurt, you're even thinner. So there are real questions of Georgia on the offensive line. Vegas dramatically moved the line from 7 to 3.5 in favor of Tennessee, which I talked about yesterday. And my speculation was that Tennessee was having a lot of bettors in the state moving it because Tennessee sports betting is legal and it's not legal in Georgia. My also speculation was that, they looked at the analytical rankings. The FPI is now favoring Tennessee to beat Georgia, 51.5%, 48.5%. All that being said, Look, I know they're not supposed to, but I've always believed Vegas has insiders, and I believe they have insiders in Georgia that say Juan Gaston and Ernest Green are not healthy, and even if they are, they won't be 100% in this game on Saturday. So with that in mind, the number 1 most important player is Bryson Eason for Tennessee because the issues and the injuries on Georgia's offensive line make it crucial that the interior defensive line of Tennessee blow up everything for Georgia. And with Jackson Moy either coming back from injury or missing the game, I think he'll just be coming back. With David Hobbs still likely out, Bryson Eason is the one true interior defensive lineman with experience who can blow up everything for Georgia, and he needs to make a ton of plays. He needs to get the push in the middle to free up guys like Tyree Weston, Dominic Bailey, and also to free up the edge rushers like Joshua Josephs to be able to make big plays. It will come down to Bryson Eason. So Bryson Eason, of all people, is the most important player in this game for Tennessee football. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hey, Mo, Off the Hook Sports sent you." When we come back, we're going to discuss an AP poll voter embarrasses herself. And it's a disgrace to college football, what she did. Stick with us. 2 minutes, Off the Hook Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell, turn on your notifications. Portions of the program brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses. Wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. 10629 Hardin Valley Road. It is time for What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler, looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. The AP poll continues to show why it should never carry weight in college football again, and shows why human polls have discredited themselves, much to my chagrin as someone who believes human involvement in voting in college football is a sacred tradition and a sacred privilege that I say as a member of the media. Haley Sawyer, an AP poll voter, got exposed for moving Florida up 2 spots to number 14 after their loss to South Florida at home this past weekend, and keeping South Florida, who just beat them in the Swamp, by the way, and who the week before beat Boise State, who was last year's college football playoff team and started in the top 25, keeping them unranked. She got called out by a South Florida fan after Reddit posted the AP Top 25 Week 3 ballots, and she decided to explain herself, and this is what she had to say.
But as far as what my votes are and what my process is, I wake up early in the morning after covering a game late in the night before. Don't want to go too much into my progress or process or logic, but I will say I appreciate everybody's interaction on social media and all of your feedback. There's tons of people that vote on the AP poll, and it's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote. And like I said, it's really fun for discussion. It doesn't probably matter in the end, but I'm glad that people are having a really good time with it. But as far
If you care about college football, you should be disgusted by that. I wrote about this 2 years ago when I was at SEC Media Days, and AP voters, media voters at SEC Media Days. For those who don't know, when you're an SEC Media Day member, when you go and you're and you're an attendee, every single person gets a ballot, not an online ballot, a paper ballot to vote their all SEC teams and who they think is going to win the SEC championship. Everybody gets one. I did mine. I spent in the middle of SEC Media Days that week a lot of time doing thorough research to try to do the best job I could possibly do with my rankings. And I turned it in. I do all that work. Took time out of all. By the way, SEC Media Days, that's a busy work trip. Okay. Just so you know, there's a lot of other things you have to do. And so taking time out to do that, that takes a lot of time. And I did it because I took that job very seriously. I turned in my ballot. I'm on the airport going home after SEC Media Days on Friday. We do a show. I'm going home Friday afternoon. Going home from Nashville. I get the results of the votes that I turned in and everybody else. And I see that Vanderbilt had three votes predicting them to win the SEC championship. That was despicable to me. And it really, really frustrated me as someone who spent all this time trying to do the best job I possibly could on projections and predictions, to see people throwing Vanderbilt in and picking them to win the SEC when everybody knew they weren't going to win the SEC. Everybody knew they had no shot of winning the SEC. Was one of the most despicable things I think I'd ever witnessed. And I want to insist upon that because, look, I know you hear from coaches, why do we play? We just play the game. And they complain about predictions and projections and media analysis and all of that. Guys, no sport grew because of newspaper writing and media analysis more than college football. Go back and look at history. People like Grantland Rice in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Writers like that and the role they played is what grew college football beyond where it should have grown as a college sport. A couple of things I want to point out. There are some mediums that are so tied into sports, they should be sacred. Radio should be treated as sacred for baseball. Radio is the biggest reason baseball became such a big sport. As a matter of fact, radio, because baseball, for those who don't know, is actually the easiest sport to follow on radio. So when radio got big in the 1920s, it picked up a huge following of baseball fans. If baseball had just started through TV, it would not have the cachet it has today. It started because radio made it easy to follow. And following baseball on the radio when there were no other forms of medium to follow things was so big that in World War II, in the 1940s, if you didn't know baseball stats or baseball players, you were actually quizzed on it to see if you were a spy for a foreign government or not. I'm not even kidding you. You were quizzed on your knowledge of baseball as a man in the military in the 1940s because it was so big, there was the belief that if you didn't know baseball, you were a spy for a foreign government. And that was because of what radio did to grow baseball. Writers, and this woman, Haley Sawyer, is a newspaper writer. Writers are the ones responsible for pushing forward college football, the way they covered things. Writing has been a huge part of why college football is what it is since the growth of the sport post-World War I. Alabama Crimson Tide, their mascot's an elephant because they were just one time referred to by a writer as a herd of elephants. Writing is such a sacred, crucial part. Being a writer is so big. That's how the sport grew. The AP poll became the gold standard. From 1936, its inception, all the way till 1997, the AP poll national champion was the primary determiner of a national champion. Okay? Yet the BCS after that for 14 years, and the BCS still did what the AP poll had a huge impact in it until they pulled out, I think, in 2004, 2005. But it was so powerful that USC got to split the 2003 national championship because even though the BCS national title didn't include them, the AP still voted them number one. The AP poll is sacred. It is so sacred. And writing and the role that writers play in college football is sacred. If you are going to have that responsibility, you have to take it seriously. But I want you guys all to listen to Josh Pate's point because he talked about this yesterday. The blame rests with college football and people who run college football who let it get to this point, because there is no accountability at all anywhere for who gets to vote on the AP poll, who gets to vote on the Heisman race, or anything like that. Most notably, there's also no accountability for the College Football Playoff Committee, because I'm going to say something to you guys. The College Football Playoff Committee is no less credible than the AP poll and how they vote on things. And that's why you get such dramatic turns of events. How many times have you seen teams move in the college football playoff rankings through no reason whatsoever? And I don't want to just talk about what just happened with South Florida and Florida. I want to talk about Tennessee. Tennessee's number 15 this week. I talked about this 2 days ago. They were number 22 last week. They moved up 2 spots after beating Syracuse and 7 spots after beating a Division II school. What? Now, you could say a bunch of other teams ahead of them lost. That's true. SMU lost. Florida lost. Arizona State lost. Michigan lost. They were all ahead of Tennessee. It makes sense for Tennessee to move up at least 4 spots. But last week, they stayed behind Alabama, even though Alabama lost and Tennessee won. Maybe you think Florida State on the road is tougher than Syracuse, which was like fine. But then Tennessee moves ahead of Alabama this week, when Tennessee beat an FCS school by a smaller margin than Alabama beat an FBS school. How is that enough to jump Tennessee ahead of Alabama, but not the week before when Tennessee won and Alabama lost? You see the inconsistency of the AP poll voters? They don't know what they're doing. And it is very frustrating to me. If you are going to hold this responsibility in sports, whether that be being a radio broadcaster for baseball, a writer involved with college football, you have a sacred duty to take that job seriously. What the H brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Looking for affordable game day jewelry? They want to be your jeweler, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Now, I want to clear something up real quick. And I think the AP poll and the college football playoff are very much at fault for creating this narrative. One of the theories in the way that people try to make this claim and the narrative they try to put around them is the idea that these votes are based on what they saw with their eyes watching the teams play. That's not even true with the college football playoff. There's this idea that they painstakingly watch every game and break it down. They don't. They don't. But here's my hot take. They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't. I'm not expecting you to watch every game. I'm not even expecting you to watch marquee games. Heck, I don't care if you go on vacation on Saturday and don't watch any games on a weekend, and I still wouldn't mind you being an AP poll voter. All I care about is this. When the games happen, you do just a little bit of research to see who won and who lost and what the body of work is. I've always said the ranking should come down to a body of work more than what you saw on the field. Always, always, always. So I don't expect you to watch every game. I don't expect you to watch most of them. I expect you to put a little bit of effort, though, and to know that South Florida beat Florida on the road. South Florida's 2-0. Florida's 1-1. South Florida should be ranked ahead of Florida. That's not like you should do that bare minimum of effort. And for you to say, well, this doesn't matter anyway, well, then why are you voting in it? You see the problem here? You are devaluing something that had a huge role in the growth of college football and the growth of the sport. And to throw it off like that and laugh at it, it's just despicable, honestly. And it's disgraceful. And college football is not the NFL. The media and the writing landscape drives college football in a huge way. Derek is calling me out, says I have Mississippi State at number 14 in the country per my poll. I do, Derek. I have them in the top 15. But I've given you my exact reason why. Mine is not a joke. My AP poll I've told, or my poll, I do it every week. It is based on the body of work, period. It's not based on preseason rankings. It's not based on projections. It's based on the body of work. And right now, with body of work, South Florida is number one in my poll. Yeah, that's right. I got South Florida as the number one team in the country. I take my rankings very seriously. I rank you week to week based on your body of work that week. That does not mean I think South Florida is the best team in the nation. I don't rank who I think is the best, second best, or whatever. I rank teams by their body of work. South Florida's body of work has them at number one in the nation right now. They are. They beat a team that, and by the way, the only thing I take into account from last year is I give a little bit of weight if you beat a team that made the college football playoff. But until the schedule strength clears out a little bit more, which, by the way, it's impossible to do schedule strength right now because every team is either 250, 500, or I'm sorry, every team is either 000, 500, or 1,000. Every single team. So you got to wait until at least the end of the month before you really start to throw in schedule strength. Once September ends, I'll wait schedule strength. But until then, I have to wait who play Power 4 teams, did you play them at home or away from home, who played teams that made the college football playoff last year. So I point that out to say that, yes, I have South Florida at number one. I don't think they'll stay there. That'll change as time goes on, guys. I understand that. But my votes and my rankings are based on body of work. And they are week to week. If you want to do based on best teams, fine, but you actually have to watch the games at that point. And I think that's the biggest mistake with college football playoffs to say it's based on the best teams. No, it should be based on the body of work. And my body of work has South Florida at number one to this point. Derek, I'll give you credit. You did call South Florida upset last week. Now, I said South Florida would cover. I didn't call the upset, so I will give you the credit. And Steve is right. At least look at the scores. If you're going to do these rankings, at least look at the scores. The show is represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast you live every weekday, 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Smash that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. Tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports, and we want you to be a part of it. I will be back on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern as we continue our preview of Tennessee, Georgia. Thank you guys all for tuning in with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.